The grand palace of Zareth shined like a jewel in the sky. It was built from dark silver stones and floated above the clouds. Inside, the royal court was filled with aliens wearing armor and robes. At the center sat the powerful King Zorak, ruler of the Zareth Empire. His 3 daughters stood by his side, Princess Lyria, Vexa, and Thaline. The 3 alien sisters were known across galaxies. Lyria had blue skin like the deep ocean. Vexa had green skin that glowed under the palace lights. Thaline had smooth purple skin and sharp golden eyes. They were beautiful, powerful, and proud, and they hated humans. "Bring in the human," the king ordered. The large doors opened. 2 guards stepped inside, dragging a human behind them. He was tall, with short brown hair, strong shoulders, and quiet eyes. His name was Jace Carter, a commander from Earth. He walked calmly, even though chains were around his wrists. When the sisters saw him, they laughed loudly. "This is the human everyone is talking about." Lyria smirked. "He looks so soft." "I've seen Earth animals that look tougher," Vexa added. "Maybe he's just here to clean the floors." Thaline joked. The court laughed with them. Jace said nothing. He stood tall and silent. His eyes scanned the room, calmly studying everything: the guards, the exits, the weapons. King Zorak leaned forward on his throne. "You are from Earth. Do you know why you are here, human?" Jace nodded. "You captured my ship. I expect some kind of punishment." "You are not here to be punished," the king said. "We are curious about your kind. We have heard stories. Some say humans are weak. Some say you are clever. But I only see flesh and bone." Vexa walked closer to Jace and poked his chest. "Is this all you humans are made of?" Jace didn't move. "Do you even know how to fight?" Thaline teased. "Or do you cry when someone yells at you?" Still, Jace said nothing. The mocking continued for minutes. Everyone in the court enjoyed the show. Everyone except the king. His eyes narrowed as he watched the human. Finally, Jace spoke. His voice was calm but strong. "You laugh because you don't understand me," he said. "You feel safe in your palace, behind guards and power. But you fear one thing. And what is that?" Lyria laughed. Jace looked straight at the king. "You fear me, 'cause I'm not afraid of you." The room fell silent. For the first time, the sisters stopped smiling. The king leaned back, his face unreadable. The guards looked at each other. "You dare speak to a king like that?" Vexa asked. "I speak only the truth," Jace replied. The king stood slowly. Ati walked down the steps of his throne, stopping just in front of Jace. He was taller, stronger, and far older. He looked into Jace's eyes for a long moment. Then he turned to his daughters. "You think this human is weak, but look at him. He is alone, in a room full of enemies. And yet, he does not tremble." Thaline crossed her arms. "That just means he's foolish. Or maybe it means he is stronger than you think," the king said. The sisters said nothing. The king turned back to Jace. "Very well. You will stay here in the palace, as our guest. But remember, this is not Earth. You are in my world now." Jace nodded once. Guards took him away, and the court was dismissed. But the sisters did not forget what happened. They watched the human being led down the hallway, still standing tall, still silent. "I don't like him," Vexa muttered. "I hate his eyes," Thaline whispered. "Like he's hiding something." Lyria said nothing. But she was thinking the same thing. The palace halls of Zareth were wide and silent. Silver floors reflected the soft blue light glowing from the crystal ceilings. Commander Jace Carter walked quietly, escorted by 2 armed guards. They led him to a large guest chamber more luxurious than any prison, but it still felt like a cage. "You will remain here," One guard said without emotion. "Do not attempt to leave." "You're being watched." Jace nodded. "Understood." The door closed behind him with a metallic hum. He sat on the edge of the soft alien bed, his eyes scanning every detail of the room. There were no windows, no sharp objects, no communication screens. Clearly, this room was made for someone important. And dangerous. Elsewhere in the palace, the three alien sisters paced in their private chamber. He just stood there. Thelene said, annoyed, like he wasn't scared of anything. He's just pretending to be brave. Vexa argued. It's probably some kind of human pride. Lyria, the eldest, looked thoughtful. Or maybe he really isn't afraid. Which means we know nothing about him. Vexa scoffed. He's just a man from a dying world. Why should we care? But even she didn't sound fully confident. Later that night, Jace knelt on the floor of his room. He placed his hand on the smooth surface and whispered softly, "Code, Spectre." From a hidden pocket in his belt, a tiny dot of metal detached and floated into the air. It turned into a small projection, a human hologram showing Earth, military symbols, and encrypted data. Jace scanned the information. His face remained calm, but his eyes narrowed. Message from Earth Command. Mission continues. Confirm if Zareth. Empire is hiding experimental weapons. Extract if necessary. Do not break cover. Jace smiled faintly. They think I'm weak. Let's keep it that way. The next morning, a sudden alarm echoed through the palace halls. Guards ran toward the West Wing. Something was wrong. The sisters were already there, standing with their father, as the palace defense commander reported. There was an intruder, the commander said. One of the rebel assassins from the outer colonies. He managed to enter. Through the upper ventilation shaft, the king frowned. Did he reach the guest chambers? The guard hesitated. Yes, but what? He was already dead when we arrived. Gasps filled the air. What? Vexa asked. Who killed him? Your guest, the commander replied. The human. The scene in the guest room was shocking. The assassin's body lay on the floor. His weaponar rare blade made of plasmo was shattered in 2 pieces. Jace sat calmly in the corner, sipping a warm drink. When the king entered, he raised an eyebrow. You were attacked. And you lived. Jace stood. He was fast, but not fast enough. You killed him without a weapon. I've had training. Jace said, long before I came here. Lyria stared at him, speechless. Thelene stepped forward. That blade can cut through steel. How did you break it? Jace shrugged. I aimed for the weak point. The king turned to his guards. Check the body. I want every detail and double security. From now on, the human is not a prisoner. He is under my protection. Later that evening, whispers spread through the palace. Did you hear about the human? He killed an assassin? With his bare hands. The king trusts him now. Maybe he's not so weak after all. In the training yard, some of the alien guards began practicing the moves they saw Jace use through the security feed. Even the elite soldiers were impressed. The sisters, however, were furious. This changes nothing, Vexa said. He's still a human. But he beat someone even our top guards couldn't. Thelene replied, arms crossed. Lyria remained silent again. But she was thinking, deeply. That night, Jac stood at the balcony of his chamber, looking out over the glowing city of Zareth. Ships flew between towers like fireflies. He knew his time was running short. Earth needed answers. But something about this place, and these sisters, kept pulling his mind in another direction. A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. You don't sleep much, do you? He turned, It was Lyria, standing just outside the door. "I've seen soldiers like you before," she said, her voice calm. Quiet eyes, silent strength. "And what do you think of them?" Jace asked. "They usually die young," she replied, "or become legends." Jace smiled. "Let's see which one I become." For the next few days, the palace of Zareth was filled with whispers. The human was no longer just a guest. He was a mystery. A question nobody could answer. Soldiers nodded when Jace passed by. Servants smiled with respect. Even the High Council spoke his name with curiosity. But not everyone was impressed. Princess Vexa, the middle sister, watched the change in the palace with growing frustration. Her pride burned hotter each day. She was a warrior trained in 10 different alien martial arts. She could crush steel with her fists. And yet everyone now talked about the human. She refused to be silent anymore. One morning in the training arena, the royal courtyard was filled with soldiers and noble visitors. It was a special event combat demonstration day. Warriors from across the empire came to show their strength before the king. Jace stood quietly on the edge of the crowd, watching. Then Vexa stepped into the center of the ring. "I challenge the human," she shouted. Gasps echoed through the audience. Even King Zorak looked surprised. Jace raised an eyebrow. "You want to fight me, afraid Earthman?" Vexa asked, stepping forward in her black and green armor. "Or are you only brave when your enemy is already dead?" Jace walked slowly into the arena. "I don't enjoy fighting, but I won't run either," the king spoke. "This will be a demonstration only. No weapons, no killing." Vexa smiled. "That's fine. I won't need more than my hands." The fight began. Vexa struck first, fast like lightning. She aimed a spinning kick toward Jace's head. But Jace ducked, calmly, effortlessly. She followed with a punch to his ribs. He twisted sideways, letting the blow miss by inches. Another strike. Another dodge, again and again. The crowd began to murmur. Jace hadn't thrown a single punch. But Vexa hadn't landed a single one either. Princess Thaleen leaned toward her sister Lyria. "He's reading her moves." Lyria nodded slowly, like he's been fighting people stronger than her his whole life. Vexa roared in frustration. She charged forward, this time trying to tackle Jace. He sidestepped, then gently placed his hand on her back and let her momentum carry her forward. She hit the ground hard. The entire court gasped. But Jace didn't attack. He simply stepped back and waited. Vexa stood up, breathing heavily. Her pride was wounded more than her body. She lunged again, but the king raised his hand. "Enough." Silence filled the courtyard. The king's voice echoed like thunder. "You have made your point, both of you." Jace bowed his head and stepped away. Vexa stood frozen, her fists clenched. Her eyes burned with anger. But also something else. Confusion, maybe even respect. Later that day, the sisters sat together in their chamber. Thaleen was smirking. "That was the first time I've seen you fall, Vexa." Vexa frowned. He didn't win. He just refused to fight. Lyria looked thoughtful. "Or maybe that was the smartest move. He embarrassed you without ever harming you." Vexa gritted her teeth. "He's hiding something. No human moves like that." "You still think he's weak?" Thaleen asked. "No," Vexa whispered. "I think he's dangerous." Meanwhile, King Zorak sat in his private chamber, speaking to his old advisor. "You saw it, didn't you?" The king said. The advisor nodded. "Yes, Your Highness. The prophecy, 3 stars. 3 daughters, 1 outsider. A bond that will prevent war." The king looked down at the ancient scroll in his hand. The words glowed faintly under alien light. "I never believed it would be a human," the king whispered. but I feel something shifting. This man, Jace Carter. He may be the key. That night, Jace walked through the garden of the palace. The stars above Zareth looked different from Earth's sky, but beautiful in their own way. He stood, silently breathing in the cool air. A voice came from behind him. "You should have hit me." He turned. It was Vexa. She wasn't wearing her armor now. It's just a dark robe that flowed around her as she stepped closer. "If I had hit you, Jace," replied, "you would have hit back harder." Vexa stopped in front of him. Her green eyes glowed under the moonlight. "Why didn't you fight me, seriously?" "Because I didn't want to hurt you," Jace said honestly. "I respect strength. I don't fight for fun." Vexa's expression changed slightly. She had expected more arrogance, more pride. Instead, she found calmness. "Honesty, I'll beat you next time," she said quietly. Jace smiled. "I look forward to it." The throne room of the Zareth Empire was quiet. Unusually quiet. King Zorik sat on his tall throne, made of silverstone and glowing crystal. Behind him stood the banners of war, peace, and Prophesy 3 golden flags, each with symbols that few understood. But the king understood them well. In front of him stood his daughters Princess Lyria, Vexa, and Thaleen. Their faces were serious. The lightness they once had when mocking the human was gone. What they witnessed over the last week had shifted something in them. Commander Jace Carter stood silently nearby, calm and respectful. The king looked at each of them, then took a deep breath. "I have made my decision," he said. The room tensed. "I have seen how this human walks among us," the king said slowly. "How he carries himself, how he speaks, how he does not speak. He has courage, restraint, intelligence, and mystery. He is still just a human," Thaleen blurted out. The king raised his hand. She fell silent. Long ago, a prophecy was spoken by the starseers. The king continued. It said, "When 3 daughters bloom and the stars align, an outsider will come not to conquer, but to bind. Through him, peace shall rise." The sisters glanced at each other. They had heard the prophecy before, but never believed it. The king looked directly at Jace. "I believe you are that outsider." Jace blinked. "With all due respect, Your Highness, I didn't come to fulfill any prophecy. You didn't need to," the king said. "Destiny brought you here." The royal decree. The king stood from his throne and lifted a crystal scepter, its tip glowing blue. "I, King Zorik of Zareth, make this royal decree before my court and my blood." Everyone leaned forward. "My 3 daughters, Princess Lyria, Vexa, and Thaleen, shall be joined in royal bond to Commander Jace Carter of Earth. This union shall begin the age of peace." As written in the stars, a silence heavier than gravity fell over the hall. "Then what?" Thaleen shouted. "You can't be serious," Vexa added, stepping forward. Lyria said nothing, but her fingers curled into a tight fist. "You expect us to marry a human?" Thaleen cried. "A lesser species." "He is not lesser," the king said firmly. "He is chosen." Vex's voice was cold. "This is a mistake." The king looked at them with royal authority. "You may see it that way now, but your hearts will open. And if they don't, your duty will guide you." He turned to the guards. "Prepare the ceremonial preparations. The bond will begin in 7 cycles." Later that day, the sisters stormed into their private chamber, slamming the door behind them. "This is madness," Thaleen shouted. "We're royalty, not prizes to give away." "I will not share a bed with a human," Vexa growled. "I don't care if he defeated an assassin." Lyria remained by the window, silent again. Thaleen turned to her. "Say something, Lyria." The eldest sister finally spoke. "The king is not a fool. He wouldn't do this for fun or pride." "Then why?" Vexa asked. Lyria turned. Because he's scared. The room went still. Father has ruled this empire for 100 years, Lyria said. Batiste never looked as nervous as he did today. He's not just following a prophecy. He's preparing for something big. Meanwhile, Jace sat in his room, his thoughts spinning. He hadn't expected this. Not at all. Marry 3 alien princesses. He wasn't even sure if this was political, spiritual, or something stranger. A soft knock came at his door. It was the king's advisor, an old alien with wise, tired eyes. You may not see it yet, the advisor said softly, but this bond will save lives, perhaps even your own. Jace sighed. They hate me. Perhaps. But hearts can change, especially when touched by truth. Jace looked down at his hands. I never came to Zareth for this. The advisor nodded. But now that you are here, make the most of it. Show them the strength of humans. At midnight, Lyria stood alone in the royal library, staring at the old scrolls of prophecy. Hands trembled slightly. She didn't believe in fate. She believed in power, strategy, and knowledge. And yet, Jace Carter had survived death, defeated warriors, moved people without trying. Even without touching her heart, he had entered her mind. She wasn't ready to call it love, but she was no longer sure it was hate. 7 cycles. That's all the time the 3 alien sisters had before the royal bonding ceremony with the human. 7 days to prepare, 7 days to resist, 7 days to figure out what this human truly was. Inside their private chamber, the atmosphere was tense. Vexa paced back and forth like a caged beast. Thelene sat on the edge of her velvet bed, arms crossed. Lyria stood silently near the large mirror, brushing her long, dark blue hair. I will not go through with this, Vexa snapped. Father can't force us to marry him. It's a royal decree, Lyria said calmly. We don't have a choice. Thelene groaned. Why him? Why a human? This whole palace is full of strong alien males. Warriors, scholars, princes. None of them disarmed an assassin with their bare hands, Lyria said. Vexa scoffed. Maybe he got lucky. Twice. Lyria raised an eyebrow. He beat you without even hitting you. The words made Vexa's face tighten with anger. He is calm, strong, mysterious, Lyria continued. And I think that's exactly why Father chose him. Meanwhile, Chase stood in the open gardens of the palace. Alien birds flew overhead, their wings glowing softly in the Zareth sun. A young servant brought him water and food, bowing respectfully. He still didn't understand how things had changed so quickly. One moment, he was being mocked. The next, he was being forced into marriage with 3 alien princesses. It felt like a strange dream, enjoying the royal treatment. A voice asked. He turned. Vexa stood there in tight black armor, her eyes cold and sharp. I didn't ask for any of this. Jace replied. Good, she said, stepping closer. Because we didn't either. He nodded. Then maybe we can agree on one thing we don't have to pretend. Vexa stared at him for a moment, then smirked slightly. You're not as soft as you look. And you're not as heartless as you pretend to be, Jace said. Her smile vanished, and she turned sharply, walking away without a word. Later that night, Aileen visited the kitchens, searching for something sweet to calm her nerves. She wasn't a fighter like Vexa, or as thoughtful as Lyria. She was emotional, quick to laugh, quick to cry. And tonight, she felt confused. She remembered how Jace had looked at her. Not with hunger, not with judgment, just with curiosity. He never bowed to her, but never disrespected her either. He treated her like a person, not a prize. She found Jace sitting by the indoor waterfall, watching the glowing fish swim through. "The alien waters. You're strange human," she said. "Sitting beside him, so I've been told," Jace replied. "Most men run after me." "You didn't. Maybe I run differently," Feline giggled. "You think you're clever?" Jace gave a small smile. "Only on Thursdays." She laughed again, real laughter this time. For a moment, she forgot about the marriage, about the crown, about the anger. She was just a girl sitting beside a boy from a different world. Meanwhile, Lyria was watching. From a distance, hidden behind a curtain of vines in the garden, the eldest sister saw her siblings talking to the human, one by one. They were being pulled into his orbit, and she hated how it didn't seem fake. Vexa challenged him and walked away quiet. Feline giggled like a child beside him. Lyria's heart beat faster. She didn't want to admit it, but deep inside, she was curious too. The next day, a storm rolled across the sky. Thunder cracked like falling stars. Rain poured over the palace roofs. Jace stood in the open courtyard, letting the water soak his body. It reminded him of Earth, of war, of peace, of loss. Suddenly, a soft voice called behind him, "You'll catch a cold." He turned around. It was Lyria. Her long blue robe was already wet. Her silver eyes were unreadable. "I didn't expect to see you here," he said. "I wanted to see what kind of man stands in the rain alone, thinking." "Too much?" Jace smiled faintly. "The kind who doesn't know if he's making the right choices." Lyria stepped forward. "You didn't choose this. Neither did you." She nodded. "But we still have to live it." They stood quietly for a moment, rain falling, hearts open. Then she said softly, "I don't hate you, human, but I'm still afraid of you." "Why?" "Because I don't know what happens if I stop." The royal wedding was now only 2 cycles away. The whole palace of Zareth was buzzing with movement. Decorations were being hung. Alien musicians were rehearsing. Servants whispered stories about the strange human who had won the attention of not one, but 3 royal daughters. And still, no one truly knew what was happening between them. Not even the sisters themselves in the royal garden. Princess Lyria sat under the shadow of a glowing tree. Her royal robe was folded neatly beside her as she wore a simpler, soft silver dress. Her hair, wet from the gentle mist around the garden, hung freely down her back. Jace walked by and saw her. He paused, unsure. She noticed him, but didn't move. "You're free to sit," she said softly, not looking at him. Jace nodded and slowly sat beside her. For a moment, they said nothing. Then she spoke, her voice low. "You scare me, human." Jace looked at her, because of the prophecy. "No," she said. "Because I feel things around you I've never felt before. I don't like not being in control." He tilted his head. "Maybe control isn't everything." "In this world," she replied, "it is." Jace was quiet for a moment, then said, "You don't have to love me. But if we're to share a bond, we should at least understand each other." Lyria's fingers gently brushed a silver leaf off her lap. "Then understand this. I don't hate you anymore." Jace smiled. "That's a good place to start." Elsewhere in the palace, Vexa was alone in the combat training room. She punched the air, kicked at holographic targets, moved with lightning-fast precision. But her focus was off. Her timing was slightly wrong, because her mind wasn't on her training, it was on him. She hated the way her heart raced when she saw him in the halls. She hated how her dreams now included a pair of calm human eyes and a quiet voice that never backed down, and worst of all, she hated that she respected him. "Why do you mess with my head, Jace Carter?" she whispered, sweating, breathing hard. Then she stopped and stared at her own reflection in the mirror. "I should hate you. But I don't." That evening, Aileen slipped into the music room, where soft alien instruments played by themselves. Controlled by floating crystals, she found Jace already there. Sitting cross-legged, listening quietly. She sat beside him, resting her head gently on his shoulder without asking, "I've never felt peace like this before." She whispered. JC didn't move. He simply said, "It's rare for me too." "I used to think humans were weak," Aileen admitted. "But maybe we're the ones who never learned how to feel." Jay smiled. "Feelings aren't a weakness. They're a weapon, if you use them right," Aileen giggled. "Careful, Jace. You're starting to sound like a Zareth poet." He chuckled. "Maybe I was born in the wrong galaxy." She held his arm tighter. "Maybe you were born exactly where you were needed. Back." In the throne room, King Zorik listened to reports from his advisors. "Something is happening," one whispered. "The daughters are softening." Another nodded. "Each of them now speaks to the human without anger. He's done more in days than many suitors could in years." The king smiled to himself. Then the stars were right. He stood from his throne and walked slowly to the great window, looking out at the twin moons of Zareth. "Let this bond grow," he whispered, "or all will be lost." Midnight. Jace stood on the balcony, looking up at the stars. So many lights. So many worlds. He heard soft footsteps, turning. He saw all three sisters standing there. Lyria.vexa. Aileen. None of them wore their armor. None of them held the cold expression they once did. They stood together, unsure, yet united. "We've decided." "Something," Lyria said. Jace nodded slowly. "I'm listening." "We don't fully understand why this is happening," Vexa added, "but we're not going to run from it anymore." Aileen finished. Jace looked at them, one by one. Lyria stepped forward first. "You earned my respect." Vexa moved next. "And mine." Aileen smiled. "And maybe more than that." Then the three sisters stood side by side, their arms barely brushing each other. Jace took a deep breath and nodded. "Then let's see where this goes. Together." The grand halls of the Zareth Palace were brighter than ever before. Silver banners shimmered from the ceilings. The scent of glowing alien flowers filled the air. Hundreds of noble guests from across the galaxy had gathered to witness what many thought would never happen: the royal wedding of 3 alien princesses to a single human. Commander Jace Carter stood tall at the center of the ceremonial platform, wearing a robe made of earth leather and Zareth silk, a blend of 2 worlds. His hair had been neatly trimmed by palace servants, a golden ring woven from starlight metal rested in his palm. He looked calm on the outside, but inside, his heart beat faster than a battle drum. He never asked for this. He never expected it. But somehow, it felt right. The doors opened. 3 figures entered together. Princess Lyria, in soft blue and silver. Vexa in black and emerald green. Aileen in purple robes with golden lace. They didn't walk as enemies anymore. They walked with grace, strength, and unity. Each had chosen to stand here, despite everything. Not because the king ordered them, but because something inside them had changed. The mocking was gone. The hate had faded. Something deeper had taken root. Whispers filled the air. Look at them. Walking beside a human. Are they truly willing? They don't look forced. They look peaceful. As the sisters reached the platform, the king stepped forward. His face was proud, but his voice was strong and clear. "Today, we witness a new future," he declared. "Not one born from tradition, but from transformation. My daughters once stood above this man. Now they stand beside him, not as slaves, not as sacrifices, but as equals." Jace's eyes met each of theirs. Lyria-the wise, who learned to see strength not in fists, but in stillness. Vaxa-the proud, who respected the human that wouldn't fight her anger with more anger. Eileen the sensitive, who laughed with the only man that didn't see her as a fragile toy. They had changed him too, one by one. They took his hands. Lyria's voice was calm and low. I mocked you because I feared you would break us. Instead, you helped us rebuild. Mex's grip was firm. I challenged you to prove your weakness. But you showed me quiet power. Thaline's fingers trembled, but her eyes glowed. I thought love had to come with pain. You showed me it could come with peace. Jace said nothing for a moment. Then, softly, he replied, and I thought I came here to survive. But I found something worth living for. The golden ring of starlight split into 3 threads, one for each of them. The binding ceremony began as the king raised his scepter. 3 beams of soft light wrapped around the couple. The air shimmered. Time slowed. It was done. The human had married the daughters of Zari. Days passed. The palace calmed again. There were no more jokes. No more whispers of shame. No more questions of why. Only answers of how far things had come. Jace spent time with each sister in his own way. With Lyria, he studied ancient texts and shared Earth's forgotten stories. With Vexa, he trained daily learning. Her combat techniques while teaching her human ones. With Thaline, he explored music, laughter, and light moments under the moons. Together, they formed not just a bond, but a team. Not perfect, but real. Then came the real test. A fleet of warships appeared at the edge of Zareth's space rebels, who hated the idea of peace. Who feared the bond between Zareth and Earth. They sent one message: surrender the human, or we burn your cities. The king called an emergency council. His generals shouted, his advisors panicked. But Jace stood and said, "Let me speak to them." Lyria objected. "It's dangerous." Vexa growled. "They want blood." Thaline held his arm. "Don't go alone." Jace smiled. "I won't. I have you." He faced the rebel leaders on a secure channel, and what he said would echo in history. "I'm not just a human anymore. I'm Zareth by heart. I didn't come here to fight, but if you bring war, you'll find something you didn't expect. Not weakness, but unity. You fear what this bond means because it works. Because it proves species can live together, not die apart. So come, if you must. But you'll face all of us. 3 sisters. 1 human, 1 future." The rebels backed down. They weren't ready to fight a planet, united by love and loyalty. Peace remained. The galaxy took notice. And Earth. Earth sent a message back. "We're proud of you, Commander Carter. You've done more than we ever dreamed. Return if you choose, or build a future where you stand." Jace didn't return because he had already found home. Final scene. On a quiet night, Jace sat under the glowing tree in the garden, the same place where Lyria had once told him he was scary. Now she sat beside him, her head resting gently on his shoulder. Vexa leaned against his back. Her arms crossed, but her heart open. Thaline lay in the grass nearby, humming an old Earth tune she learned from him. They didn't need to speak. They were no longer mocking strangers. They were a family, not born of blood, but built through time, trust, and choice.